Jeffrey Epstein. The name alone conjures a vortex of darkness, privilege, and unanswered questions. His life, and even his death, remain shrouded in controversy, fueling an array of theories that challenge our understanding of power and accountability. But amongst the many disturbing narratives, one specific theory echoes with a chilling persistence, suggesting a design far more intricate than mere personal depravity. We are asked to consider, was Epstein merely a predator, or something far more calculated? A puppet, perhaps, on the strings of a global intelligence network? The central, most explosive allegation pivots on the claim that Epstein was not just facilitating illicit encounters, but meticulously documenting them. Filming, with sophisticated equipment, every compromising moment involving high-profile politicians, celebrities, and business titans. And not for his own perverse enjoyment alone, but as an asset. An agent, for Mossad, Israel's formidable intelligence agency, collecting what is known in spycraft as Kompromat. The implication is profound, a vast archive of leverage, held over the world's most influential figures. But is this mere speculation, or does it hint at a deeper, more disturbing truth? To understand the gravity of this theory, we must consider Mossad's documented capabilities. Renowned globally for its audacious, often covert operations, the agency's primary mission is safeguarding Israeli national security. This objective frequently involves intelligence gathering, counterterrorism, and influence operations. While the specifics of their methods remain classified, the agency's history is replete with examples of penetrating hostile states and gathering critical intelligence through unconventional means. The question then becomes, would leveraging an individual like Epstein, with unparalleled access to global power brokers, align with such a strategic objective? The potential returns, for any intelligence agency, would be colossal. Kompromat, a portmanteau of compromising material, is the lifeblood of espionage. It refers to damaging information, often sexual or financial in nature, collected to discredit, manipulate, or blackmail an individual. Its value isn't monetary, it's leverage. The ability to force compliance, extract information, or influence decisions without overt force. For an intelligence agency, Kompromat is an invaluable tool for shaping geopolitical outcomes. Imagine a scenario where the most powerful voices in Washington or London are silently compromised, their public stances secretly dictated by unseen puppeteers holding their darkest secrets. The sheer thought is terrifying, yet it forms the bedrock of this particular Epstein theory. Epstein cultivated an extraordinary network, spanning continents and industries. From former presidents to royal family members, Nobel laureates to tech billionaires, his Rolodex was a directory of global influence. This access wasn't accidental, it was meticulously constructed. He was a master at ingratiating himself with the powerful, offering perceived benefits or simply proximity to other influential figures. This unparalleled access is precisely why the Mossad theory gains traction. Who better to collect sensitive intelligence than someone already embedded at the apex of global society, moving freely among the very individuals whose secrets would be most valuable? His private island, Little St. James, became infamously known as Pedophile Island, but for the Mossad theory, it takes on an even darker connotation. Proponents suggest the island was not merely a venue for illicit acts, but a sophisticated intelligence hub. A highly controlled environment, isolated and secure, where visitors were far from prying eyes, or so they thought. The theory posits that every room, every corner, every interaction, was potentially monitored. Cameras, microphones, hidden recording devices, all part of an elaborate setup to capture compromising material, turning a private paradise into a surveillance trap. The very isolation that made it appealing, made it the perfect stage for such an operation. The mechanics of such an operation, if true, would be chillingly simple yet devastatingly effective. High-value targets, lured to Epstein's various properties, his New York mansion, his Palm Beach estate, or the infamous island, would be placed in compromising situations. These events would then be secretly recorded. The footage, once obtained, would become Epstein's currency, not for personal gain, but for intelligence exchange. A continuous flow of compromising data, channeled to his alleged handlers. The sheer volume of his interactions suggests a potential scale that is difficult to grasp, creating an ever-expanding vault of vulnerabilities. For any intelligence agency, politicians represent the ultimate prize for Kompromat. Their decisions shape national policy, foreign relations, and military actions. Compromising a politician offers direct influence over governance. If Epstein was indeed collecting such material, imagine the silent leverage. Votes swayed, policies altered, diplomatic stances adjusted, all without a single public trace. The power gained from a secretly compromised politician is incalculable, and for a nation like Israel, constantly navigating complex geopolitical landscapes, such influence could be considered an existential asset. The stakes could not be higher. Beyond politicians, the theory extends to celebrities and media figures. These individuals wield immense cultural influence, shaping public opinion and narratives. Compromising them could offer control over public discourse, redirecting media attention or promoting specific viewpoints. In an age of information warfare, controlling the narrative is a powerful weapon. An intelligence agency might not seek direct policy changes from an actor, but rather the subtle manipulation of public perception, the quiet promotion of certain agendas, or the suppression of inconvenient truths. The long-term implications for societal trust and journalistic integrity, if such a network existed, would be profound. Then there are the business titans, the financial powerhouses who control vast wealth and industries. Compromising them could lead to economic espionage, insider trading opportunities, or the manipulation of global markets. A nation's economic stability can be as crucial as its military might, and gaining an advantage in this arena is a core intelligence objective. Imagine a world where major corporate decisions, mergers, and acquisitions are influenced not by market forces, but by the silent hand of blackmail. The wealth generated from such operations could fund further covert activities, creating a self-sustaining cycle of influence and control. It paints a picture of a global economy secretly shaped by clandestine agendas. If the Kompromat theory holds, the scale of global vulnerability is staggering. We're talking about potentially hundreds, if not thousands, of influential individuals across multiple nations. Each with a secret, each with a pressure point. This isn't just a list of names, it's a matrix of interconnected leverage points, capable of exerting systemic influence on a global scale. The sheer logistical effort to manage such an archive, to identify targets, to execute the recordings, and then to deploy the leverage, speaks to an operation far beyond the capabilities of a single individual, hinting at sophisticated state-level backing. The numbers, though unknown, imply an unprecedented intelligence coup. Amongst the various intelligence agencies, why does Mossad frequently emerge in these discussions? Part of it stems from Israel's unique geopolitical position and its long-standing need for robust intelligence gathering. Furthermore, there are historical precedents for the use of Kompromat and unconventional methods by Israeli intelligence. The theory also often connects Epstein to figures with alleged ties to Israeli intelligence, fostering a narrative of pre-existing relationships. While unproven, these connections and historical patterns provide the fertile ground upon which the Mossad theory takes root, making it a compelling, if deeply unsettling, explanation for Epstein's otherwise inexplicable access and protection. If such an operation were truly in play, deniability would be paramount. Intelligence agencies operate in shadows, and attributing specific actions, especially those as morally reprehensible as alleged in the Epstein case, is a direct violation of their covert nature. A successful intelligence operation leaves no fingerprints. Therefore, any official denial from Mossad or the Israeli government would be expected, regardless of the truth. This inherent art of denial means that definitive proof is incredibly elusive, feeding the cycle of speculation and making it nearly impossible to confirm or refute the theory with public-facing evidence. The absence of proof, in this context, often becomes proof of absence for some, and proof of sophistication for others. Central to the Epstein network was Ghislaine Maxwell, his longtime associate and alleged accomplice. In the context of the Mossad theory, Maxwell's role is amplified. She wasn't just a facilitator, she was potentially a key operator, identifying targets, cultivating relationships, and managing the logistics of the alleged Kompromat collection. Her father, Robert Maxwell, was himself a controversial media mogul with alleged ties to intelligence. This familial connection fuels the speculation that Ghislaine may have inherited or developed her own intelligence links, making her a formidable and deeply embedded asset within Epstein's sophisticated web. Her capture and subsequent conviction, for many, only solidified the belief in a wider, more organized conspiracy. The mechanics of blackmail involve a constant trade-off. For the target, the cost of exposure versus the cost of compliance. For the blackmailer, the value of maintaining leverage versus the risk of exposure if the target refuses. In a state-sponsored Kompromat operation, the calculation is even more complex. An intelligence agency weighs the long-term strategic benefits of influence against the short-term tactical risks. It's a delicate dance of power, where missteps can lead to international scandal or the loss of invaluable assets. This comparison highlights the sophisticated operational planning required for such an alleged network to function for decades, undetected by rival agencies or law enforcement. One of the most perplexing aspects of Epstein's history was his remarkably lenient plea deal in 2008 for sex offense charges, which allowed him to largely escape federal scrutiny for years. This perceived protection is often cited as circumstantial evidence for the intelligence agent theory. Why would such an egregious offender receive such a favorable outcome, especially when the allegations involved minors and powerful figures? Proponents argue that this leniency was a direct consequence of his protected status. He was too valuable to be fully exposed, his network too critical to dismantle. The notion of a get-out-of-jail-free card due to covert service adds significant weight to the narrative of state-level complicity. Then came August 10, 2019. Jeffrey Epstein was found dead in his Manhattan jail cell, ruled a suicide. But the circumstances surrounding his death immediately ignited a firestorm of doubt. The cell was reportedly unsupervised, surveillance cameras mysteriously malfunctioned, and fellow inmates who could corroborate events were transferred. For those who believe in the Mossad agent theory, this wasn't a suicide, it was a termination. A highly inconvenient asset, now exposed, with too many secrets, silenced before he could reveal the true scope of the Kompromat network and his alleged handlers. His death, in this context, solidified the narrative of a vast conspiracy, far beyond a simple criminal case. It was the ultimate silencing. From an intelligence perspective, the timing and manner of Epstein's death are crucial. If he was indeed an asset, his continued existence posed an immense risk of exposure. A public trial, under oath, could have unraveled decades of covert operations, compromised countless assets, and exposed the vulnerabilities of global leaders. Terminating an asset who becomes a liability is a stark, but sometimes necessary, action in the clandestine world. The swift, seemingly clumsy nature of the suicide could even be viewed as a deliberate message, a warning to others who might consider breaking ranks, demonstrating the severe consequences of disloyalty to those who operate in the shadows. It underscores the ruthlessness inherent in high-stakes espionage. Despite official conclusions, the unresolved questions surrounding Epstein's death continue to fuel the Mossad agent theory. Why were standard suicide watch protocols not followed? Why the cellmate transfer? Why the camera failures? These aren't minor discrepancies, they are fundamental breaches of protocol that beg for a deeper explanation. For many, the official narrative simply doesn't add up. The gaps in the story are precisely where conspiracy theories take root and flourish, particularly when the stakes involve such powerful individuals and the potential for a global Kompromat network. The sheer number of lingering questions serves as a testament to the persistent doubts in the official account. Navigating the truth in the Epstein saga is like entering a labyrinth. Every turn presents new allegations, every corridor a new suspect. The Mossad theory isn't the only one, but it offers a framework that attempts to connect many disparate, inexplicable threads: Epstein's access, his apparent protection, the scope of his network, and the suspicious circumstances of his demise. It provides a motive and an explanation for the sheer scale and longevity of his operation that goes beyond individual psychopathy. For those seeking a coherent narrative in a deeply incoherent story, the intelligence angle offers a chillingly logical, albeit terrifying, pathway through the maze. The continued secrecy surrounding Epstein's connections and the circumstances of his death exacts a heavy toll. It erodes public trust in institutions, fuels cynicism towards justice systems, and leaves a lingering suspicion that a powerful elite operates above the law, protected by unseen forces. If the Mossad theory holds any truth, then the implications extend to international relations, national security, and the very integrity of democratic processes. The longer the truth remains obscured, the deeper the cracks form in the foundations of public confidence, creating a fertile ground for further distrust and disillusionment. This is the ultimate cost of unchecked power and hidden agendas. The initial lack of widespread media attention to Epstein's crimes, despite years of whispers and previous arrests, is another point of contention often woven into the Mossad theory. Some argue this suppression was a deliberate effort, orchestrated by those with a vested interest in protecting the Kompromat network. Mainstream outlets, perhaps unknowingly, or through subtle pressures, downplayed the severity or the implications of his activities. This alleged media silence, for a time, allowed the network to operate relatively unchecked, reinforcing the idea that powerful forces were actively working to keep the full scope of the scandal under wraps. The sheer difficulty in breaking through this wall of silence is a powerful indicator of the forces at play. Perhaps the most eagerly anticipated piece of potential evidence, never fully released, is the fabled Epstein client list. In the context of the Mossad theory, this isn't merely a list of attendees, it's a roster of compromised assets. Every name, a potential target. Every visit, a potential recording. The extreme efforts to keep these names hidden, the legal battles, and the slow, drip-feed revelations only reinforce the perception of a vast network with immense power to protect its members. If this list were fully unveiled, and if the Kompromat theory were true, it would send shockwaves through the global establishment, potentially exposing the intelligence community's deepest secrets. The very existence of this list, and its continued secrecy, is a testament to its perceived power. The method described in the Epstein-Mossad theory bears a striking resemblance to a classic intelligence technique, the honey trap. This involves using sexual seduction or illicit encounters to compromise targets, creating kompromat. It's a proven method, employed by numerous agencies throughout history, because of its potent psychological leverage. The targets, often powerful and influential, have everything to lose from exposure. Epstein's alleged operation, therefore, fits a well-established pattern of intelligence gathering, reinforcing the notion that his actions were not just predatory, but strategically deployed as part of a larger, state-level agenda. It's a disturbing thought that such an ancient tactic finds its modern, grotesque application in the highest echelons of society. Intelligence operations are often a long game, spanning decades rather than months. If Epstein began his alleged kompromat collection years, even decades, before his public exposure, it suggests a foresight and strategic planning far beyond that of a common criminal. This longevity points to a sustained effort, likely backed by a state actor capable of maintaining such a complex, clandestine network over extended periods. The gradual accumulation of leverage, the patient cultivation of contacts, and the systematic documentation all fit the profile of a sophisticated, long-term intelligence gathering program designed to yield influence for generations. It implies a chilling dedication to a covert agenda. The label conspiracy theory is often used to dismiss uncomfortable narratives, especially when they involve powerful entities. In the Epstein case, it's frequently deployed to delegitimize any deviation from the official story. However, intelligence agencies themselves often engage in what could be described as conspiracies, secret plans by multiple actors. The very nature of espionage is conspiratorial. So, while caution is always warranted, simply labeling the Mossad theory as a conspiracy does not inherently invalidate it. Instead, it prompts a closer, more critical examination of why such labels are so readily applied, and what interests might be served by discouraging deeper inquiry into the uncomfortable possibilities. Epstein's global movements, his properties in New York, Palm Beach, Paris, and the Virgin Islands signify a truly international operation. If he was working for Mossad, this transnational reach would be essential. It allowed him to engage with influential figures from diverse geopolitical spheres, expanding the potential pool of targets and the breadth of intelligence collected. This wasn't merely a local scandal, it was an entanglement that stretched across continents, blurring lines between national interests and covert agendas. The very scope of his movements and connections makes the National Intelligence Agency theory more plausible than a purely independent criminal enterprise. His passport, stamped with countless entries, tells a silent story of global access. If the Mossad Kompromat theory were true, it plunges the ethical landscape into a moral quagmire. The use of sexual exploitation of minors, even indirectly, as a tool for state-level intelligence gathering would represent a profound betrayal of humanitarian principles and international law. It would force a devastating reckoning with the lengths to which some entities are willing to go in the pursuit of power and influence. The horrific human cost of such an operation, concealed beneath layers of geopolitical strategy, would be an indelible stain on any nation or agency involved. It begs the question, what price is too high for national security, and where do we draw the line between justifiable intelligence and unforgivable depravity? Jeffrey Epstein's legacy is one defined by doubt and lingering suspicion. Whether or not he was a Mossad agent, collecting Kompromat on the world's elite, the theory itself has become a potent symbol of distrust. It speaks to a deep-seated fear that powerful forces operate beyond scrutiny, manipulating events from the shadows. This pervasive doubt, fueled by official obfuscation and unanswered questions, will likely endure for generations. It means that for many, Epstein's story is not just a sordid criminal case, but a chilling parable about the hidden machinery of power and the terrifying potential for unseen hands to pull the strings of our world. The silence, in this case, is deafening. The theory posits an unseen hand guiding Epstein's actions, granting him a degree of immunity and influence that baffled many. This unseen hand, if it belonged to Mossad, would explain his ability to operate with such impunity for so long, attracting the world's most powerful people without consequence. It suggests a protectorate, a strategic shielding that prioritized the intelligence value over legal justice. The idea that his entire life, even his horrific crimes, were merely a sophisticated front for a state intelligence operation paints a disturbing picture. It challenges our understanding of good and evil, blurring the lines between individual depravity and geopolitical strategy. The sheer scale of the alleged deception is monumental. To maintain a false persona, cultivate a network of power brokers, facilitate horrific crimes, and simultaneously collect high-value intelligence for decades requires a level of cunning and operational security rarely seen outside of fiction. Yet, the Epstein saga forces us to consider that reality can be stranger and far more sinister than any novel. This web of deception, if it was indeed state-sponsored, represents a masterclass in clandestine operations, demonstrating an alarming capacity for long-term infiltration and manipulation at the highest levels of global society. It's a testament to the fact that truth often hides in the most unlikely places, or rather, the most uncomfortable ones. For many, the search for a smoking gun continues, an irrefutable piece of evidence directly linking Epstein to Mossad and the Kompromat scheme. However, in the world of high-stakes espionage, such definitive proof is almost never found in the public domain. The very success of such an operation relies on its absolute secrecy. Therefore, the absence of a smoking gun doesn't necessarily disprove the theory, rather, it often reinforces the belief in the sophistication and effectiveness of the alleged intelligence apparatus. The challenge lies in piecing together circumstantial evidence, analyzing patterns, and drawing inferences from the gaps in the official narrative. It's an intellectual puzzle where crucial pieces are deliberately withheld. The Epstein saga has generated countless headlines, but few have dared to delve into the depths of the intelligence agency connection with the gravity it demands. Moving beyond the sensationalism, the Mossad theory forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about global power dynamics, the vulnerability of our leaders, and the unseen forces that may shape our world. It's a call for a deeper, more analytical approach to understanding complex geopolitical events, urging us to look past surface narratives and consider the intricate, often sinister, machinations that operate beneath the veneer of public life. The reality, if this theory were true, would be far more unsettling than any scandal. Every intelligence agency operates within a moral and ethical framework, however fluid. Yet, if the Epstein allegations hold, this framework was shattered beyond recognition. The deliberate creation of Kompromat through the exploitation of vulnerable individuals, particularly minors, crosses an ethical red line that few would argue is justifiable under any circumstances, even national security. This aspect of the theory confronts us with the ultimate cost of unchecked power and clandestine operations, the sacrifice of fundamental human decency. It serves as a stark warning about the potential for corruption when the ends are perceived to justify any means, no matter how abhorrent. Beyond the individuals directly impacted, the silence from many institutions, both governmental and private, adds another layer to the Mossad theory. Why haven't more investigations been launched? Why the apparent lack of genuine pursuit of justice for all involved? This institutional silence, or perceived inaction, can be interpreted as either extreme incompetence or, more ominously, a deliberate suppression driven by the very leverage that the Kompromat allegedly provides. The idea that powerful entities are too compromised to act, too entangled in the web, is a chilling thought. It implies a paralysis at the highest levels, a collective silence of the lambs where fear or complicity prevents true accountability. The forensic investigation surrounding Epstein's death and his network has been widely criticized for its gaps and inconsistencies. Crucial evidence reportedly went missing, key testimonies were suppressed, and leads seemingly left unexplored. In the context of an intelligence operation, these gaps are not necessarily failures, they can be deliberate obfuscations. The systematic removal or destruction of evidence is a hallmark of sophisticated cover-ups designed to protect assets and operations. The persistent questions about forensic integrity, rather than diminishing the Mossad theory, often strengthen the conviction that a far more powerful and organized entity was at play, meticulously erasing tracks. It's a comparison of incompetence versus design. Years after his death, Jeffrey Epstein casts an enduring shadow over the halls of power. The Mossad agent theory, while unproven, remains a powerful narrative because it attempts to explain the truly inexplicable elements of his story. It provides a framework for understanding how one man could amass such wealth, such access, such protection, and orchestrate such depravity with apparent impunity. Whether it's the full truth or a chilling fabrication, the theory forces us to confront uncomfortable possibilities about the hidden forces that shape our world. It compels us to question everything, to look beyond the obvious, and to acknowledge that some mysteries may be intentionally designed to remain unsolved. The shadow, it seems, will linger until the full truth is revealed, if ever. Consider the stark contrast between two potential motivations. On one side, Epstein is a purely independent criminal, driven by personal greed and perverse desires. On the other, Epstein is a state intelligence asset, his actions meticulously planned and executed for geopolitical leverage. The first explains the abhorrent nature of his crimes, but struggles to account for his extraordinary access, apparent immunity, and the suspicious circumstances of his demise. The second provides a framework for the larger network, the protection and the silencing, but requires accepting a profound level of state cynicism. This comparison highlights why the intelligence theory persists. It offers a more complete, albeit disturbing, explanation for the totality of the enigma. What does the future hold for the full disclosure of the Epstein network? Will more documents be unsealed? Will key figures finally come forward with irrefutable evidence? Or will the full truth remain permanently buried, deemed too dangerous for public consumption? If the Mossad theory is correct, the forces suppressing this information are immense, operating at a state level with national security implications. This suggests a continuous battle between the public's right to know and the perceived imperatives of clandestine operations. The lingering hope for many is that, eventually, the weight of accumulated circumstantial evidence or an unexpected leak will finally force the hand of transparency. But until then, the questions multiply. Imagine, for a moment, a world where the most powerful individuals are not truly free agents, but rather, operate under the subtle, unseen influence of blackmail. Decisions in boardrooms, legislative chambers, and diplomatic negotiations are subtly nudged, not by conviction, but by fear of exposure. If the Mossad Kompromat theory holds, then Epstein was a key component in a sophisticated mechanism designed to intercept and manipulate global power. This isn't just about one man's crimes, it's about the potential corruption of the entire global system, a silent coup where power is exerted through the darkest of secrets. It's a terrifying vision, but one that this theory bravely, or perhaps dangerously, confronts. Revisiting the concept of influence, its price is not measured in traditional currency. If Epstein was indeed collecting Kompromat for an intelligence agency, the value of that intelligence, that leverage, is incalculable. It grants silent control over vital policy decisions, strategic alliances, and even global narratives. The cost of acquiring such influence might be the moral soul of an operation, but the perceived gain for national security could be immense. This chilling calculus explains why such theories persist, even without definitive proof. It offers a rational, albeit horrifying, explanation for actions that defy conventional understanding. The price, for some, is worth the darkness. The echoes of Jeffrey Epstein's secrets resonate still, bouncing off the walls of power and privilege. The theory of him being a Mossad agent, systematically filming politicians and celebrities, remains an unverified yet deeply provocative possibility. It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about the world we live in, where power can be wielded in the darkest of ways, and where the lines between statecraft and depravity blur. This deep dive has explored the framework of this theory, the components that give it shape, and the profound implications if it were ever proven true. Until then, the shadow of Epstein, and the secrets he may have held for others, continues to loom large, a haunting reminder of what might truly lie beneath the surface.